many of the jobs that I used to have that I identified myself by, much of my memory that has relationship to who I'm not, all those false kind of egotistical identifications, all wonderful stuff as you're doing them, but they aren't who I am. And so this first wave of light in the shift, if you could, is clearing away a whole lot of stuff that you're not. Even more importantly, the stuff of who you are not that is being cleared away is your thoughts and your emotions. So in third grade, my best friend didn't like me all of a sudden one day, and I said, I'm never going to talk to him again, and I never want to hang out with those kind of people again. And I make a decision, and I'm angry and I'm hurt because of whatever action this person took. And now, but 2 weeks later, I'm best friends with that person again. But what happened to that thought and that emotion and that anger and that resentment? You see, a very interesting thing, thoughts don't just go away. They don't just go poof into the air. Every thought you have that is coupled with an emotion, and every thought is coupled with an emotion, doesn't just disappear when you get done having that thought. So how many times have you made, I'm talking to everybody, a decision that I don't like this, I do like that, that's good, this is bad, that's not an okay thing, this is an okay thing. And then what happens to those thoughts is you begin to create that thought into a belief. People with blue hair, I can't say that to you guys, but people with blue hair are not okay. Well, you make a decision like that, and all of a sudden that decision becomes a belief, and then it becomes an unconscious set of thoughts that act out as habits in your mindset. And then you begin to live those. What happens is, I don't like that third grade friend of mine anymore because they have blue hair, or they're black, or they're a woman, or they're gay, or they come from another country, or they're disabled, or they have this kind of opinion. I don't like them. What happens is those thoughts and those emotions, when they become a belief and then a habit and then a unconscious set of patterns, they sit within your reality and they begin to drive your personality. And a lot of those things, you make those decisions, and then you find out people with blue hair are actually pretty nice folks. And then you begin to hang out with them. And then you actually marry one of them. What happened to the original hate that was thought when you were in a younger age? Those thoughts are sitting on, I'm being simple, a shelf behind you that you don't look at anymore. And we've accumulated lots of those kinds of beliefs and thoughts and resentments and jealousies and angers, third dimension. This first wave of light is coming through, and basically it says to you, do you want to keep that stuff? And your answer is no. And so your memories are being cleared away. Many of those thoughts that have nothing to do with you anymore are being cleared away in everybody. Then there is a second wave of light that's passing through you. And that wave of light is reconnecting, remembering, rebuilding, realigning you, having you begin to remember you. And the you that you will remember is kind and gracious and appreciative and cooperation, and you love people. There's no room for jealousy and rage. But can you see the transition that we're in? As that first wave is clearing away a lot of those thoughts, the second wave is beginning to give you new information, but there's still a conflict, because one of the things that we do is, as that first wave comes through, it says, do you want to give up that bigotry, that sexism, that racism, that opinion you have? And what happens is there's a part of you that says, I'm afraid. I don't know what will happen. I can't let go of this. What will happen to me if I stop going to this church, or if I don't do what mom, dad, teacher, minister told me to do? And so we hang
so,
on.
Jim, we
to
actually
it.
have a caller. I want to take a question real quick so we can get some interaction with our listeners here. Let me check. Area code 828. Are you there? 828.
This is Shelley Starr. I was actually just listening, but I was thinking of calling in to ask if Jim would care to comment on something. Can you hear me?
Of course.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There was a pretty wide belief that back in September and October there was going to be an event that would occur that would change things so that nothing would be the same, or not nothing, but things would be very different from here on out. And back around the beginning of October, I began to feel like that it was the Occupy movement that has spread around the world. And I just wanted to know if Jim would care to comment on that.
Happy. See, the Occupy moment is a huge move forward. Whether it's Occupy Wall Street or whether it's the young people in Tunisia or Libya or Egypt or Syria or any of those countries, what they're all basically saying, what's beginning to happen is that little burst of sun has come over the top of the mountain, and everybody on the planet is feeling that there's a need for a change in what we're doing. And that's this whole shift. That's what the shift is. And so that Occupy Wall Street movement is now spreading all over the place. And it basically doesn't even have any defined goals. It just simply is a lot of people very positively saying, enough, this isn't working. You know, it can't, 1% of the elite cannot hold that much control, domination, and restriction over the other 99. And so that's the shift. It's just simply very important. And you will continue to get these waves, and other people stand up in regard to other aspects of the shift. But you are simultaneously seeing a dissolving of that third dimensional world. You are seeing major financial breaks in the system that has been very controlling everything. It is very close to breaking. That doesn't mean it's a fearful thing, but that level of control is because of people saying enough.
Okay, thank you. That was pretty much exactly what I was feeling, because I felt like it was truly the beginning of just this wave that was, everybody was just, it's all going to change. I mean, even if people don't see something happening now, or even, a couple of months from now, outwardly, like a particular event, it is still the beginning of a huge change.
Yes,
thank
absolutely.
You.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to mute myself, but I'm going to stay here and listen.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that question. We're going to segue from that a little bit, though, because I want you to explain a little bit for our listeners about alchemy and what that is.
Please. You want me? Is that a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you could describe a little bit more about what that is in your website.
Alchemy is an old word that most people, if they even know the word, treat it as the ability to change lead into gold. But it is far more than that. It is a way of life, particularly in the higher dimensions. It's the ability of altering your thoughts, changing the harmonics of matter, and applying the elements of love to create a desired outcome. And so, just simply in thoughts, and this should be fairly obvious, if you continue to hold anger, resentment, jealousy, and rage, those words are very rigid. They are very conditional, and there's not a lot of flexibility or mobility to them. And if you look at the third dimensional world, it is very constructed in always and never. It is constructed in right and wrong and good and bad and should and shouldn't. There's not a lot of flexibility in those thoughts. You're not much of a creator in those thoughts. But when you can begin to loosen up those thoughts and have a little bit more flexibility and be a little more forgiving, all of a sudden alchemy begins to build the ability to change fear into love, into motion, into creativeness. And so in the simplest terms, that's what alchemy is. In a little larger term, where we play, what my job is not to teach a philosophy, not to teach anything in real terms, but to provide tools. See, people don't understand, they're not taught how to manage your energy or how to manage your ability to alter the relationship of consciousness. And so when you start to recognize, for example, that, and most everybody that you're listening to will understand, that there's a place. If I said to you, and let me just use you, Eric, is there a place where you're aware that if somebody steps too close to you, that's too close? It's like they step into your space. You know that place?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So there's this thing that we call an aura, and it's an energy field. Every living thing on the planet and everything that's supposedly not living, like a rock, everything has an energetic field to it. But what happens to humans is they don't recognize that they can manage that field of energy. In the third dimension, without knowing effectively, I'm going to be very simple, where that field starts and stops, and it doesn't start and stop, but just for reference, if you can identify where it starts and stops, which is approximately if you stuck your hand straight out in front of you and turned your palm inward towards yourself, that is approximately where this energy field starts and stops. If you could identify that from that point to my heart is me, and everything on the outside of that field is Shakespeare's theater for your entertainment, would your world be different? And when I ask that question and when I teach this tool, people get it. When you don't know where that point of reference is, you become the effect of everybody else's energy, angers, resentments. Have you ever noticed when you walk into a room of angry people that many times you begin to be a little off balance and irritable after just a few minutes? It's simply everybody else's vibrations begin to move right through your space. But when, as a tool, you can learn how to just create a point, we use an image of a rose at the edge of the aura, and keep your energy inside of it and allow whatever goes on outside of you to move around. Your ability to not be affected by a lot of that energy becomes very manageable. Your emotional state changes. Your ability to process thought and make better choices changes. And most important, you begin to operate in present time, which is the only place you exist, not the past and the future where third dimension exists. That's how you begin to start the process of becoming an alchemist. How do you manage change and direct the flow of energy?
So then this has concepts involving dimensions, right?
Very much.
Can you explain your understanding of that a little more?
I can. That's a great question. Thanks for asking that one. So let's be very simple.